of snakes. And we have Emily Taylor with Central Coast Snake Services with us. Welcome.
Hi, Randy. Nice to be here.
I wish I could say this. I'm scared. So, but the service is what we really want to get out. And so thank you for coming on the show and talking snakes.
You bet.
So, so tell me a little bit about yourself. So tell me about Emily.
Well, I'm a professor of biology at Cal Poly. I've been there since 2005. So I've studied rattlesnakes for the past 25 years. And in 2019, I started a business called Central Coast Snake Services to help people with problem rattlesnakes here on the Central Coast. So we remove rattlesnakes from people's yards for free. We don't kill them. We relocate them into the wilderness where they can keep doing their snake things, but not in your yard. And then we do all kinds of other services to help people and snakes coexist.
No kidding. So what? So you love rattlesnakes? I mean,
I do love rattlesnakes. It's a niche thing, but you'd be surprised how many of us there are. But I also recognize that most people don't. Most people are either afraid of rattlesnakes, disgusted by rattlesnakes, and that's okay. So that's what I'm here for, is to help people out so that they don't have to try to take matters into their own hands when it comes to, a dangerous animal. Rattlesnakes are not going to bite except to defend themselves. But if someone was to accidentally step on a rattlesnake, or someone's dog was to go and approach a rattlesnake, or if someone was to try to kill a rattlesnake, that's sometimes when the biting occurs, when rattlesnakes defend themselves. So we're here to make it so that no one has to do that.
So you've been a professor and in the biology and really studying snakes in general, or specific to rattlesnakes?
Specifically rattlesnakes. Okay. Although I teach classes on snakes in general. I just wrote a book on California snakes that's coming out in 2024. So I know a lot about all snakes. People can send us a text message with a photograph of the snake they found, and we'll identify it immediately.
Oh, no kidding.
But rattlesnakes are my bread and butter. They're the animal that I've studied. So we do things like surgically implant little tracking devices in them so we can follow them around in the field and learn about their biology, what they do, all kinds of stuff.
Gosh.
Like they have these social systems where they have friends and family members they hang out with. Like, we don't give enough credit to rattlesnakes, really. They live for over 60 years sometimes. They know exactly what they're doing. They have areas they like to frequent. They're really, really cool animals,
Really? So I want to step back to the little GPS thing. So is that something that you're like, oh, snake number 7753 is in, so-and-so backyard now?
Unfortunately, they're usually not going to be GPS ones. They're ones where it's a radio frequency, so you have to actually be out there tracking them with an antenna. Oh. They do make some GPS ones that you can actually attach to the rattle now, and once a day it would beam up to a satellite and you would get a recording of where it was. But they're still kind of big, so they're not used as much anymore, but someday they'll probably be used a bit more.
But that'd be kind of cool. So that way
cool.
We could get all the snakes. So that way you could be like, hey, there's a snake somewhere right in here. Let's be careful.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be cool.
And some people are doing that with some of the big rattlesnakes. Like in California, rattlesnakes aren't big in size, but over in Florida, they're real big. They can carry a big old transmitter.
In Florida?
Florida has the biggest rattlesnakes.
Really? I did not know that.
Eastern diamondback rattlesnakes, very big.
No kidding.
As big around as my calf.
Oh my gosh, I would just immediately die if
they don't want trouble either. They're really mellow. They hang out in the brush. They stay away from people as best they can.
So you've been doing this a long time in California.
Yeah.
So what is the biggest rattlesnake that you've seen or come across in California?
In California, the biggest rattlesnake I've seen would be its total length pushing about 4 feet long.
Wow,
so a lot of times people say, oh, I saw a 5 or 6 foot rattlesnake, but it's just like anything else. People exaggerate the size. Sometimes it's also people will use a forced perspective where they'll use tongs like this to pick up a rattlesnake, and then they hold it out in front of them and it looks on the camera like it's bigger than it. Like in a fishing, when people go fishing and they hold the fish out here and it looks bigger.
Right.
Same thing with snakes. So they're usually going to be 2 to 3 feet in California. A 4 foot rattlesnake is very rare.
But what do they feed on? I mean, I saw some pictures where they had like squirrels. I mean, they can eat large squirrels? Yeah,
they can eat California ground squirrels. So the big male adult rattlesnakes, which are the ones that approach 3 feet long, usually is their average size, they eat California ground squirrels.
It's about like that,
right? Yeah, that's about as big as we're getting, yep. And California ground squirrels, as you know, are a major pest species. They're responsible for huge amounts of agricultural feed loss, burrowing that's undermining dams. So rattlesnakes play a really important role in maintaining proper levels of some of these pest species like gophers and ground squirrels.
Wow. And so when they feed like that, they're done for a while, or how does that work?
Yeah, here's a fun trivia for you. How many California ground squirrels do you think the average male adult rattlesnake needs to eat per year? just to not lose any weight, just to kind of maintain? Just take a guess.
5?
Less than 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the deal is, I mean, they will eat more and they'll put on more fat and they'll become, grow and so on.
Big old thick.
Yeah. But they're really efficient predators. So they have a really low metabolism. They only need to eat a little bit. So they will eat way more. And there's lots of rattlesnakes. So collectively, they do eat a lot of these ground squirrels, but they can get by with just eating a small amount.
So we were talking about the ecosystem and they serve a purpose. What purpose do they serve?
Incredibly important purpose. There's a couple main things. The first one is, like I was just saying, they help to keep these populations of rodents at appropriate levels. Otherwise, these rodents are going to completely denude all of our vegetation and our crops. The second thing is these rattlesnakes are really good at taking that small rodent energy and packaging it up into a big rattlesnake-shaped sausage that's now available for our hawks and owls and bobcats and other predators to eat. So they're important because they eat other animals, but then they get eaten by other animals. So they're like really important in that way. But there's something that rattlesnakes are really important for that's different too. So everything I just said is true of all snakes, right? All snakes eat rodents and like gopher snakes, king snakes, harmless snakes. They all eat these rodents and get eaten by other things. But rattlesnakes have venom, which everyone goes, ooh, but the venom is being used to create important drugs that are being used to treat people. So rattlesnakes are important in that way as well. They're a source of inspiration for new drugs to treat cardiovascular disease, for example. Lots of reasons why rattlesnakes are important animals to have around.
Wow, I'm just like going, what's the bucket, the thing I'm terrified of snakes.
You're not alone. Most people are, which is why we're here. So that if there's a rattlesnake in your yard, we'll deal with it for you for free.
So let's talk about that. So 2019, you said you started this Central Coast Snake Services, which you go out and somebody calls you, texts you, whatever, and says, hey, we have a rattlesnake. We think we have a rattlesnake, and then you come out. So tell me about that.
That's right. So if there's a rattlesnake in someone's yard, we will come out and relocate that rattlesnake about a half mile away for free. And so we're licensed by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. We're actually the only company in the state that is licensed to do this. And so, if you call animal services or the fire department, depending on where you are, sometimes they are obligated to kill the snake, or worse, to let it go right outside your yard. So it comes right back. Mm-hmm. So we know how to do it according to the best science. That's going to be a good situation for you. The snake won't come back, but also a good situation for the snake. It gets to live out its life just fine.
But obviously the snake has to be visible for you to get. You're not going to go in hunting I went into that hole right there. You're right.
Yeah. We tell people that they need to stand there and keep an eye on the snake until we get there. So we'll ask people to text us a photo so we can confirm it's a rattlesnake, because there's a couple species of harmless snakes that trick people. They look like rattlesnakes. Gopher snakes, night snakes, certain other ones.
Yeah, I just saw that night snake.
That's a night snake. It's a mimic of a baby rattlesnake. So,
and what would make that different would be the diamonds, right?
The diamond shape. Also, you can't really see it in this photo, but it has a pointy tail. So any snake that you see with a pointy tail in California, not a rattlesnake. Rattlesnakes all have those rattles on their tails, or if the rattle has broken off, they still have a stubby tail. But the best thing is to not try yourself. Don't pick up a snake unless you know for sure.
We're not going to identify this. Oh, this is just a night snake. It's fine. Ow!
I know. You don't want to do that. So you just text us, text the snake hotline, any time of day, night, any time of year, and we'll tell you what it is. And then if it's a rattlesnake, we'll say, keep an eye on it. Now, usually if a rattlesnake is curled up like a little cinnamon roll, it's not going anywhere. So we have plenty of time to get out there. And we have people who are in North County, people who are in South County, even in Santa Barbara County, who are ready to go and get the snake for us whenever we call.
Now on snakes, you hear them when they coil up and they're striking, they're launching, like they can jump. They jump at you, right?
They can, but they're not going to do that unless they're being harassed. So the stuff you see on TV where the snakes are striking and acting that way is because someone has poked at them and provoked them into that kind of activity. Because if they were showing rattlesnakes behaving normally, people would be bored. They just sit there. They don't do anything.
So that's all for theater.
It's all for theater. But of course, if you accidentally step on a rattlesnake, it's going to perceive you as a threat, and it might do that. And that's what most of the snake bites are. They fall into two categories. One is somebody accidentally steps on one. They're walking around, Lake Nacimiento with barefoot in the summer, and they accidentally step on one they can't see.
Which they hide themselves.
Yeah, and they do. Well. They rely on camouflage. It's a myth that they're going to rattle to warn you. Only sometimes do they do that.
Make that hissing noise. Mm-hmm. They're like, hey, I'm about ready to strike you. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's not that.
But the other source of bites are people's to the hands, usually, young men with alcohol involved. And it's because they think it's a good idea to mess with the snake or to try to kill the snakes themselves. So we think it's a win-win for everyone because it's a free service. People can call us. We'll come out and get the snake. But you're right. We have to have eyes on the snake. If you just saw a rattlesnake before, we can't come out for free, but people can hire us to do an inspection if they'd like.
Now, between an adult snake or a baby snake, which one is the most dangerous?
Adult rattlesnakes are the most dangerous. So you probably have heard a myth that the baby rattlesnakes are the most dangerous.
Yes, I have.
And it takes so many forms. It's like, oh, their venom is worse, or they can't control their venom, or whatever. None of those things are true. Those are all myths. Adult rattlesnakes have more venom in any bite, and so they're more dangerous. But all rattlesnakes potentially dangerous of delivering a very serious bite.
Wow. So you go out and grab these snakes from North County, South County?
Yeah.
The beach area?
And yes, that's right. Anywhere in SLO County, and Santa Barbara County is something that we've recently added and working on the permits for that now.
And so the reason I contacted you was that picture that you had of the snake on the beach, around the ice plant, and there was a little thing that said, the snakes wash out because of all the rain, getting washed down the creeks onto the beach. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. These recent storms were rough for people and for wildlife. So think about all the little mudslides that we saw. That mud had burrows with animals that were spending the winter. Normally we don't see, especially in North County, you're not going to see a rattlesnake this time of year, but they got flooded out of their burrows. And can you imagine these poor snakes getting rushed down these flash floods and wind up on the beach, injured, disoriented. So yeah, we've been getting calls from all up the coast, from San Luis Obispo, Pismo Beach, down to Santa Barbara about rattlesnakes on the beach. Now, they're not cruising around the beach. They're sitting there cold shocked, injured. They don't really represent a danger to someone unless someone was to go and try to mess with them. So if you see a snake on the beach, don't try to pick it up.
No,
send us a photo instead. I know you won't.
Yeah, definitely not going to be picking up any snakes. So tell me a little bit about what it takes, when you go out to rescue, move, transport, whatever you call it, a snake. I mean, what you got, your bucket, which I pray there's nothing in there. I keep hearing things. And I'm not sure if you're accidentally kicking it or that's moving, but I'm hearing noises. I'm really sometimes focusing on that. You're talking, but, and then you have your, snake picker upper. So tell me about this, process.
Well, we'll go to the person's home and they're standing there, from 10 feet away watching the snake, making sure it doesn't get away. And people have a lot of questions. So they'll start peppering us with questions. And we'll usually say, hang on a minute, let's get the snake in the bucket and then we'll answer your questions. So we pick up the snake with the tongs, put it in the bucket. 9 times out of 10, the rattlesnake just sits there. It doesn't rattle. It's very gentle. Occasionally they get very upset and they will try to defend themselves. But, this is a safe handling technique because we're highly trained to do it. I mean, I train other people all up and down the state on how to do this safely. So put the snake in the bucket and then we can set down the bucket, talk to the homeowners. And this is where it's really a good idea to call us because you've got us there for free. We'll look around for other snakes. And sometimes we find multiple rattlesnakes in people's yards.
Really?
So even if that person had, just decided to kill that snake themselves, by calling us to deal with it, we'll find other ones. But we'll also give people free advice, that wood pile might be attracting the rattlesnakes, or this bird feeder could be a problem because it's attracting rodents. So we're in it to really try to help people deal with the snake issue long term. Because a single rattlesnake in someone's yard, that's a short-term problem. There's going to be other ones behind it.
Right.
We need to help people.
Where there's one, there's many.
Yeah. And they're not going to go away. Rattlesnakes are projected to do better with climate change. There are going to be more rattlesnakes reproducing more often. And if we have continued drought, it doesn't seem like we're going to have a drought now because of all the rain, but trust me, we're still in a long-term drought. Then the rattlesnakes are thirsty and they're going into people's yards in search of irrigation water,
Wow.
that kind of pools. We find rattlesnakes drinking out of pools all the time.
I saw that.
So it's going to be a continuing problem for people, which is why we are here to help.
So with all this rain, what does that mean for us for the summer and snakes?
So rain affects rattlesnakes in really tricky ways. Usually when it comes to a drought year, like this past summer, we see rattlesnakes actually more often because they're going into people's yards in search of water. So this summer, it could be that we don't see as many because they're fine staying out in the wild because they have, creeks to drink from, that kind of thing. It's hard to say. However, one thing that we know probably will happen is that this coming year, there's going to be a lot more rodents eating all those seeds and plants. And then the snakes are going to eat more, get real fat. And next year, 2024, we're having lots of rattlesnake babies.
Ugh, that's not good.
Well, it is good. They're important players in the ecosystems. And for the most part, rattlesnakes are sticking to the wild around here. There's just several hot spots, including several places in North County, where they do get into places where people live. And that's something, like I said, most places in California don't have a professional service, especially not a free one that you can call to deal with. But you do here.
So you had mentioned some hot spots. So what are some hot spots in the North County here?
There's kind of three main hot spots in North County. One is the communities around Lake Nacimiento. So everything from like Bradley up in southern Monterey County all the way around to the homes in Lake Nacimiento. The I-41 corridor in East Templeton, lots of rattlesnakes start as soon as you get kind of crossed from Atascadero into Templeton there. You get lots of rattlesnakes out there. And then San Miguel, anywhere in San Miguel, seems like there's quite a few rattlesnakes out there.
Because of all the trees and the hills and
it's complicated. They're very spotty. So rattlesnakes don't tend to do well either in like urban areas. So they're not going to get deep into the city of Paso Robles, for example. But they do well in areas where there's open space adjacent. So neighborhoods at the edge of town, you might get more rattlesnakes. Places where there's rocky outcrops that are beginning, like the Carrizo Plain inland as well. Of course, there's a ton of rattlesnakes there. There's just not as many people. So we don't have as many interactions out there.
Now, what happens if an animal like your pet? The dogs are outside running around. What happens then?
Yeah, snake bite to dogs is a much bigger problem than snake bite to humans because humans tend to be scared of snakes and will back away for the most part. Dogs are going to sniff them and they're going to unfortunately get bit in the face, which is a medical emergency. So people need to take their dog to the emergency veterinarian where there's antivenom that can be administered to the dog. Same thing is true of cats. If you have a barn cat that gets bitten, then they may need antivenom for treatment. Prevention is so important though, and with a dog, not cats, with a dog, you can train them to actually be afraid of rattlesnakes. So you can really reduce the chances of them being bitten. And we do offer a workshop every summer where we have trainers that come in from Southern California that will train the dogs to be scared of a rattlesnake and will back away.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. How so? How do they?
They use the shock collars where the dog gets a really mild shock paired with a live rattlesnake that they have that's muzzled humanely. The snake is muzzled so the snake wouldn't be able to bite the dog. And the trainer will take the dog up to the snake. And as soon as the dog sniffs, it gets a mild shock. And so what that does is it makes the dog think that it was just bitten. And it associates the smell and sight of that snake with that painful stimulus.
No kidding.
And from then on, they're going to stay away from those. And it really does work. To the extent that your dog is trainable, as we all know, dogs vary. It really does work. And there's a rattlesnake vaccine that some veterinarians recommend, but there's no evidence that really works. So actually, I don't recommend that people use that vaccine. I recommend that they do the training.
Wow, that's interesting. Man, I'm learning all kinds of stuff, which, is good because, we got our pets and our animals. So
I'm a dog lover,
a
huge dog lover, more so even than rattlesnakes. And so I'm very much invested in helping people who have dogs that live outside, keep them safe from rattlesnakes. There's one more thing too, which is if someone has a property where there's lots of rattlesnakes all the time, then they can either try to build themselves or hire us to build rattlesnake exclusion fencing that goes around the property.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So it's not practical on big ranches because you can imagine that ground squirrels are just going to burrow under it and it's hard back of that. They'll make a little snake highway when they make a burrow. Right. But a small area around someone's home, you can easily make that permanently rattlesnake proof. So you can walk around barefoot, have your dogs have little kids running around and not have to worry about rattlesnakes.
Wow. So Emily, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that we need to get out? Because I'm sure there's a ton of information, people are going to want to know. So tell me, is there anything else that we need to talk about while we got you here?
I think the main thing is that people should, I hope that now that they know about us, reconsider killing rattlesnakes because they're such an important animal and instead call us. We operate entirely off of donations because we're not supported by taxpayers like the police department or the fire department if they come out. But that said, it is a free service. No one has to pay anything. And so they should call us and we'll come and deal with the rattlesnake and we'll make them more safe by providing the education that they need.
So tell us how they get a hold of you once more.
Yeah. So we have the snake hotline, which they can call or text 24/7, 365 days a year. That's 805-401-0811. And they can also email me or they can message me on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
But text messaging or calling is the quickest way to say, I've got a snake in my back corner that we need to get out.
That's right. And I mean, we do everything snake related. I'll sit there and talk with someone whose child has a project on snakes and they want to talk about snakes. You know, someone has a birthday party and they want us to bring harmless snakes. We'll do that for free. We do all kinds of stuff.
And you probably do those. Do you do those trainings? Do they pay you to come out to do the trainings?
Yeah, so we do snake safety trainings. That's something that is for a fee. So for example, in April, we're going to be training the Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance so that a lot of the farmers and viticulturalists working in the fields are going to be better equipped to deal with a rattlesnake if they come across one. So we do those safety trainings as well. And we do have usually about once a year a training where citizens from the community who want to learn how to do it themselves.
Oh, that'd be good information for us to get out, especially here in the North County. I feel like we're, amongst everybody, Paso, Templeton, Tascadero, like Heritage, is just, rattlesnake land.
It's true. Sometimes people who live on a large ranch aren't going to want to wait half an hour for me to get out there. They want to learn how to do it themselves. They want to learn to become more environmentally conscious and not kill the snakes and instead learn how to begin a program of relocating the snakes. We can teach them how to do that.
And one last question on your training. So I saw some pictures of the snake on the ground. Is that a real snake that you guys just let out?
Yeah, we do training with real live rattlesnakes.
I mean, what happens if that thing got away?
He won't. That's Buzz. He's our 27-year-old outreach rattlesnake. He's
Buzz the snake.
Buzz the snake, and he's a cool snake. And he's not going to get away. Everything's done under the most safe circumstances.
Is he muzzled?
Nope.
And does he still have his venom?
Yep.
And his fangs?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But look, I mean, you see how she's handling that snake. Her hands aren't getting anywhere near that snake. She's learning how to do it right. All the stuff you see on YouTube of people picking them up with their hands, those people don't know what they're doing. You got to do it with using these.
Yeah, but they're pretty quick though, right?
For the most part, they're pretty slow, but they can make quick movements. So that's where the training comes in and getting people to really be able to anticipate what the snake may or may not do. Oh. And again, lots of people don't want to do it themselves, and that's what we're here for.
And Buzz is really cool though. So.
Buzz is a cool snake. Buzz, Buzz, lots of people who meet Buzz change their mind about rattlesnakes. They really do. In fact, I'm willing to bet that you have changed your mind a tiny bit about rattlesnakes after learning about them today. Just a little bit.
Let me think. No, I still don't like snakes.
You don't have to like them.
Oh,
but
gosh,
you might. But I would be willing to bet that you recognize that there's a level of importance to them. They deserve to exist, especially now that you know that you don't have to deal with them yourself.
No, like I said, you're going right next to my wife and my kids on the speed dial. Okay, because it's going to be Emily, the snake lady, is going to be right here. Call, please, right now, because that's where it's going to be. Awesome. Emily, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I have a present for you.
Oh, come on. I swear I heard something in there.
Don't worry. It's a t-shirt.
Oh.
So I brought you a t-shirt for my laboratory at Cal Poly,
the
Physiological Ecology of Reptiles Lab.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. I swewer I heard things in there. I was like...
It's the snake heebie-jeebies.
It really is. And then I saw that, anyway, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming on and sharing this information because, like I said, we've got to get it out and make sure everybody knows about it. So
exactly.
Thanks again.
You're welcome.
Well, there you have it, guys. That was an amazing story, amazing interview with Emily from Central Coast Snake Services. And make sure you follow her page, write her phone number down, get her email address, her website, everything. Make sure you guys know that, guys. But as always, we can't do this without our sponsors, was Escalar Wines, Wine Travelers Hideaway, Rancho Sestero Meat Cutting, Amber with Pillar Real Estate, and 805 Custom, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.